Coming this afternoon, my name is Rob Roark, and I am a former congressional candidate from CD 35. I was endorsed by the RLC. We've been out with a couple of the, with a couple of different ones here in Austin and over in Aggie Country, and a couple different forums that the RLC has had around the state for candidates. And it's one of the things that I learned from the whole campaign. And let me go back a second and give you a little bit of details. CD 35 is one of the new congressional districts that was drawn, that was right in the middle of a lot of the battlegrounds over district. It goes basically from middle of Travis County, South Austin, all the way to downtown San Antonio. It's very narrow, goes through Hays County, Caldwell County, 6 different counties, Comal and Guadalupe. And one of the advantages this time around was that we were able to jump into the race as relatively newcomer. And I was able to get 30% of the vote across all 6 counties, a little bit lower in Comal, about 28, a little bit higher in Travis, 32. But we were able to show that we could do it on $7,000 is all that we spent on this campaign. Out of that money, $3,200 was just the filing fee itself. My opponent that won, and she only got us by 120 votes, would have got us into a runoff. We were that close. And she won the 51.8% of the vote in a 3-way race. So that shows just what the networking can do, getting out there and working with the local groups just to get that name out. Because if we would have just gone by the Liberty folks that we know through the Ron Paul, through the local networks, I probably would have been at about 15 to 20%. So the message is out there. We're growing that message, and we're growing it locally. And that was the important thing, is that I learned to bring together people from both Austin and San Antonio at the local levels. And a couple of things I learned from the campaign that I think all of you will probably shake your heads in agreement, is that yes, we can find people to run, but it's getting the teams behind them that's important. Because not only do you have to have money, you have to have campaign managers, you have to have volunteer coordinators, you have to have the people out there that you can tap into. And when you only have a couple months, those critical months when we need to have people in the primaries, because that's where it's decided. Once you get through the primaries, it's over. If you can take them out, look at what Ted Cruz was able to do. Look at what Donna Campbell was able to do. And we can do that all across the state. We've learned how to do those kind of things. But if we can get that in at the primary level, then we can really take it out. So my focus is not as much on what's happening in the next couple months here in November. My focus is looking 2 years down the line. My focus is looking at both, not only at the regional congressional districts, but let's go on down. Let's look at city councils. Let's look at the school boards. Let's look at getting people in place that believe in the Constitution, that believe in the liberties, that are guaranteed, and bringing those back, that they say no to the federal funding. Now, let's not go to the federal trough. Let's start looking at the local issues, and let's stop the spending, because it starts locally. If we can get the people involved and we can get them there, that's the important thing. So how do we do it? One of the ways is, Greg said, local media. Be the media. Don't wait for somebody else to tell you what the story is. You create the story, you get that out there, you get your candidates, you get your local people out there. You write, you help them write. A lot of us in the room know a lot of these things, but others don't. They need our resources, they need our help. Networking. There's so many people outside that we have influence on, but we don't tap into that, we don't map them out. We don't have those networks available, and we're not tapping into those very well, so we've got to try to bring everyone together. It's difficult because we're spread out all over the place. Well, what if you had one place that you could bring everybody to? What if you had a facility, not this size, a little bit larger, and you had offices around the area that people could rent out on a monthly basis? It's called shared workspace. It's called freelancers. Right now, the economy has changed. You have a lot of people that work from home that need offices. But they don't want to just work at the coffee houses. They don't want to work from home. They need some place to come together. And I've seen what that does in the high-tech fields and what that's doing for development down in San Antonio and here in Austin. Places like geekdom.com, if you go and look, they have a facility that I toured down in San Antonio. And if we can do that for the liberty movement, if we can do that for the constitutional conservatives, and we can bring people together so that people that have access and that have knowledge on how to do the visual graphics. If you look here, okay, you want to do a website. I'm a candidate. That's not my take. I'm good at getting up in front of people and talking to people. I bring people together. I want to run, I want to represent you, and I want to manage those things. So if you can bring people together that know not just the graphics, but you also have to have content. You have to have somebody behind the scenes that knows how to set that site up, that has to be able to do all of the security that you need and the servers that you need to do on that. Okay? So if you can have that for multiple candidates in one spot, wow, imagine the power of that. So what we're working on is to come up out of San Marcos or somewhere along the corridor right now. The project we're working is to have both a board and a, for lack of a better word, a pack. A group that is looking for candidates and looking for the purpose of running them and being able to do this from a political side. But then also to have a business, an LLC, that manages a facility that we can bring people in together and that we can bring that in under Habitat for Liberty. And that we've got a place that we can have a studio that say that Hector wants to run for school board down in San Antonio, Harland, I think, or Harlingen, or wherever the school district is down in your area there. And so we can bring them in, we can get a interview with them, we can put it up on a website, we can get them in touch with people that have been out working on Donna Campbell's campaign, we can get them in, Ted Cruz's campaign is going to wrap up here at another couple months. We don't want to let those people go. We want to start working on the next campaign, which is locally next spring. So we bring these people together. We allow them to be able to have, for $100, $200 a month, you have access to these facilities. It's shared workspace. You help each other out. Get people that are good at bundling. Wow, if you can bring everything into one place, imagine the power. So this is the project that we're working on right now here in this area. And since y'all are from around the state, I want you to think about this, because what's interesting about this concept is that it's transferable. Okay, we can take this, pick it up, transplant it to anywhere in the country. So we're creating the model. I'd like for y'all to kind of think about that. Don't think about the national right now, but go back and look at what we can do to build your networks, get the information out, and to start looking locally before you look at the national. So that's all my little spiel. Chris, did you have something earlier that you were going to ask? Or
yeah, how much did she spend?
$70,000. I apologize. 10 times. She spent $70,000. Yeah.
If you had twice as much money, you would have won.
If I would have had, we factored probably about another $5,000. Right. The biggest thing for us was the larger signs. We just went with the smaller signs rather than the larger ones. But what was interesting was we tried a couple different things. This is one of the fun things about, when we went in this, we said, let's see what works and what doesn't. We came up with 2 sign designs. One of them was white, kind of a more, kind of more professional. I don't know professional, but it was a little bit more pleasing on the eyes. And then we went with the one that I had learned when we had fought RFID chipping down in San Antonio. We went with yellow and red. It showed up, with the big, don't chip our pet. And so we designed our Rob Roark. Yeah. It's as bright as your shirt is here, Chris, with Griffin's bright red, on it. And the other night when we were up at the, we were seeing the Ted Cruz rally, the Ron Paul rally. We had about 4 or 5 people that had our signs that were right up there, right up front. And those pictures are still there, and you could spot them a mile away. So wow, here's some little concepts that we learn about visibility and about what works. and getting those out there. So yeah, and that was on the cheap. You can, go down to super cheap signs, get just a few of those and put them in the right spots. That buys me a heck of a lot more than it did $1,000 of advertising at billboards or other things. The other side of it too that I've learned, what she employed and what still a lot of them are employing, is a vertically integrated campaign strategy. In other words, you go out and you get these people that have done the same campaigns for the same people. It works for them, and guess what? You got cookie cutters all across the state. Well, none of us in this room, none of us that have been fighting in the liberty movement for the last, 4, 8 years, 2 years, wherever we stand with this, 20 years, all of us do things very differently.
Right.
And that's what's attracting. That's what we talked about with the way that, the older generation looks at it this way. The newer generation, we learned with the Ron Paul revolution, boom, boom, different ways, picks up what's working here, what's working there. So if we can go, instead of a vertically integrated campaign, that we can start with the bringing everybody that you can pick and choose. Campaign in a box is kind of our model that we talked about. So we can come in and say that Griffin wants to run for something. What works for him? What's good? What's this, here's this person here that'll work good for you, for your style. Here's the things that'll work good for you, and we can bring those in. And things that we learned from other campaigns. So learning what works for you locally around the state, building that network. I know we talked about, earlier, Art, I wanted to talk with you a little bit more about some of the local races that you have down in the valley. What's working for the Hispanics versus what's working in Houston versus what's working up in the Panhandle. Because all of those are different demographics, different races, different styles, but there's some things that we can share. So that's something here within the group, within the room. This is what the RLC brings together. And then it also brings together with Dave's network of people from Washington and that we can tap into. And I want to close with one of the statements that we'd met with some people that are wanting to try to tap into this movement and tap into the knowledge that we have in order to bring some things to the legislative session for this next time around. And one of the statements was that the old way of doing things is not working any longer. They wanted to come and to talk to people here in Austin area, here across the state. We're the ones that knocked out Jeff Wentworth.
Yeah.
We're the ones that knocked out and the establishment, and we're doing this at little different places across the state. And they realized that, where they're not going to be able to go and to push these things through without the people in the legislature taking hit. The people in the legislature know that we're out here watching them now. Wow. Man, that's power. That's what politics is about. So that's the kind of things that by being here with the RLC, by being involved, by us communicating across the state and across these networks, that's what's important. So, please get more people out and get them involved, and appreciate y'all coming today. I'm Rob Roark, and Dave?
We're going to have one more person say, just quickly.
Yeah.
I don't leave you.